Hi, everyone. The tutorial that I just did live isn't posting for some reason, so I'm going to do a shorter version here. Just draw your attention to a few important things. First of all, as you're doing your final edits, and you're going to probably want to pause this video several times. I'm going to tell you something to do. I would encourage you to pause it, do it, and come back. So start by making your ISP MLA format. So press Control A, select the whole thing, make sure it's all Times New Roman, font size 12. Next thing, please make sure that your last name, font, Times New Roman, and actually it's font 11 for your header. As you scroll through the essay, make sure that you don't have any paragraphs longer than 3/4 of a page. Okay, so you can see an introduction. I'll talk about why this is different colors in a second. Body 1 is, it's this much plus this. If you find your paragraphs are long, feel free after an individual point proof analysis to have a new paragraph. Start a new paragraph. It's no problem. And then, so make sure paragraphs are not longer than 3/4 of a page. Otherwise, just feel free to break them up a little bit where it's logical to do so. Make sure that you've indented all of your paragraphs. As you scan through the essay, please make sure at the end you've got a works cited. You need this. This is so important. You need a works cited. And that should be it. What I encouraged in the live chat, delete everything else. The charts, the rough work, the journal, delete it all. It'll still live in your revision history, so if you ever need it back, you can get it. But delete everything else. So that's how the page should sort of look. Next thing I would encourage you to do is double check your citations. Okay, so you can see, for example, for the author's last name, for each quotation, you need the author's last name the first time only. So you can see Boyden 360, Boyden's the author's last name, but the next time I only need the 174. And every other time after that, you only need the number, but the first time you need it. You want to just zoom in so you can see something quick. A lot of you are putting extra punctuation around the quotation. You're putting the punctuation here, or you're putting quotation marks out here. That doesn't make any sense. The quotation marks should be here, followed by the bracket, and the period goes at the end, right? If you have a period here, it means like this is its own sentence or something. Or if there's no period here, it's like this belongs to that sentence. Okay, so the period goes after the bracket. I'm noticing a lot of people are also not having the space here. You need a space. It's like a new word, so you need a space. So make sure you've done that. I would pause now, folks, and I would go through, make sure you've done the citation stuff, the MLA stuff correctly. It took us half an hour to get to this point, okay, when I was doing it live, so because I was giving them a chance to do it. So if you missed it, I would encourage you to go through now, make sure you've done MLA format correct, make sure you've got a page number for every quotation, make sure you've got the period's in the right place, and then make sure you've got a works cited. Okay, pause, go do that now. Okay, you're back. Take a look at your title. Titles should all be capitalized, aside from words like of or in or it or is. Okay, so make sure your title has that. Next thing, I want you to make sure that your the title of your book is in quotation marks and not, is in italics and not anything else. Title of this book is 3-Day Road. Okay, title of this book is 3-Day Road. And so you want to make sure that your title is in italics. Okay, every time you use it, it should be in italics. So do that now. Make sure that anytime you've referred to the book, you can see it's referred to again here. Make sure it's in italics and it's capitalized as well. 3-Day and Road. All three of those words are capitalized. Okay, next thing, this is going to take you longer. Writing an introduction. If you've struggled to write the introduction, I want you to read this one, and I want you to note, here's how the essay goes. We move from broad, what the argument's about. And actually, I should highlight this too, because the essay is about oppression. We give several sentences about oppression. Then we transition into how the novel uses and talks about oppression. We don't just say, like, Joseph Boyden wrote a book, period. Okay, that sentence, and even probably the next sentence, needs to be a great link between your broad introduction about oppression, in this case, and how you're going to write about oppression. So that sentence is super important. Somebody asked, if the paragraph, the introduction is long, can we have a paragraph break before that? No problem. It makes a lot of sense if your hook is a little bit longer. The next thing that you do is you outline your body paragraph. Okay, so body 1 is going to be about hostile actions. You can see that here. Body 2 is about interpretation of language. And body 3 is about assimilation attempts. So we outline all 3 of our body paragraphs. Many of you, it takes 3 sentences. That's great. And then you end with a thesis statement. Okay, so an introduction moves from broad oppression to oppression of natives in general, to oppression of natives in 3-Day Road, to the 3 ways that oppression is shown in 3-Day Road, to what do I want to argue about that oppression. So we move from broad, big picture, to the book, to the specifics of the book, to what I'm going to argue. It's this inverted pyramid. Okay? I would encourage you to ask yourself this question. Is your introduction interesting? Someone who watched it, did they read it? Let someone read it and say, like, would you want to read more about this? Would you want to read more about this topic? Does this sound like something interesting to you? And if they say yes, your hook is good. Pause now. Proof your introduction. You're back. I want to remind you how to proof your conclusion. Conclusion does the same thing, but in reverse. We start by restating our thesis, and then we re-outline the evidence. That takes at the very, very, very most 2 sentences. Very most. Okay, you just provide a little bit of framework to it, or a closure to it. But the most important thing you do in your conclusion is you give me a final thought to think about. And that's how long it takes. It takes 4 or 5 lines. You don't want a single sentence, but you actually want to say something that really leaves the reader with something to think about. The way I would encourage you to do this is ask yourself, when you finish this book, what did you learn? If you finished this book, what did you learn? And those thoughts, so I just read 3-Day Road. What did I learn? You can see that this writer, what they learned, and she got this beautiful sentence at the end. The wounds they created left scars that will linger forever in the hearts of the indigenous people. Beautiful final thought. I mean, it's disturbing, but it's a great final thought. Wounds, scars, lingering hearts, beautiful final thought. There should be something that leaves the reader thinking about a big idea that you had after reading this book. Okay, and so structurally, you do need to wrap it up, restate the thesis, give a little bit of, re-outline the evidence. But then, what did you learn? That's your final thought, and it should give me several sentences. Give me several sentences. Pause and go do that now. Okay, last thing is the paragraphs themselves. So you can see what I've done is topic sentence and concluding sentence I've left in black. And then each of the examples we've put in, I've put in a different color just to help me see when I'm transitioning from one example to the next. Before this writer submits, they would make everything black again. But if it's helpful for you, you may want to do that. Before I proof it, I just want to draw your attention to how to transition between paragraphs. Here's a great strategy. Talk about, so what I've highlighted here is what I argued above. So not only do white people's attitudes threaten Native culture, that's what I argued above, so too does the oppression of language, what I'm going to argue below. So it's a nice fluid transition to what I did and what I'm about to do. But here's what's really important. Sorry, so make sure that you've transitioned between paragraphs. Please make sure you've done that. Take a look at this paragraph. I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to take the bold off this. One of the things I want to really, and we spent time talking about, is you really want to make sure that when I look at it, these point sentences are not just plot summary. The point sentences, and you can see that each example, the blue, the purple, and the red, starts with one of them, is your argument. Your argument has to come first. Okay, the example I used is if I asked you, did you like this movie? Did you like Avengers Endgame? You wouldn't say, well, in Avengers Endgame, Captain America and Iron Man are the main characters, and Hulk doesn't become Bruce Banner, and Thanos has moving back and forth through time. And yeah, I like the movie. You wouldn't do that. You would say, yeah, I like the movie right off the bat. So I want you to hit me with that point sentence, right? So look at this person's point sentence, and there's always a transition in a point sentence. For example, this one has then. This transition has again. Okay, these transitions, each point sentence has a transition in it. And so right off the bat, you say, yeah, here's the first example. They tried to suppress these summer celebrations. The essay is about oppression. First example, they tried to oppress summer celebrations. My argument, oppression. Example, oppress the summer celebration. And these point sentences are really important. Okay, you can look at the next one. The oppression escalates to hate crimes. Okay, that's the second example. Oppression leads to hate crimes. That's the second example of the oppression. Third one, negative hostile attitudes occur in war. Okay, so but each time my argument, oppression, okay, it always comes first. My argument about oppression comes first, followed by the example. Last thing I want to mention. If you're finding your analysis is repetitive, here's a big question you need to ask. Am I analyzing the specific quotation? So we looked at this quotation, and in the quotation we saw that white people were oppressing a summer celebration. We observed here are the important parts. They are oppressing a tradition. The stern words shows oppression, and the church. So when we were analyzing, those words really jumped off the page. And so now look at the analysis. We're going to analyze tradition, stern words, and church. The insensitivity towards age-old Native culture is what makes this action so damaging. There's no respect given to something that the Native people had valued for generations. So we've analyzed the word tradition. Now we're going to analyze church. Not only that, but it's the church, a place that is meant to be one of welcome, who is responsible for the oppression. Again, a sign of tyranny. And so what I really want to encourage you in your analysis is not to just say something like this. This is clearly oppression against Native people. Why? Because it's vague. And this analysis could be said about the same purple thing. About the purple example or the red example. So instead, what I want to really encourage you as you're proofing your analysis is to make sure that your analysis really focuses on the specific quotation. Okay? Last thing you would do, of course, is you would select all. You would take all the bold of the essay out. You would take all the colors out. You would make everything black again, and you would have a perfectly formatted, highly persuasive essay. Someone asked in the chat, sir, I think the class could use a little bit of encouragement because we're a little bit stressed. Here was the encouragement that I offered. Do your very best. I strongly encourage you as you're writing your essay and preparing for our final exam, do your best. Just work at this stuff. Put in the work, do your best. You're not stressed about your essay. Folks, you're stressed about the mark you're going to get on the essay. And you can't control the mark. All you can control is doing your best or not. So I want to really, really encourage you to simply do your best. Try your hardest. Know right now that you're not going to get 100 and you're not going to get 0. So do your best. Try your very, very hardest. Write the best essay you can possibly write. Send it in by tomorrow at 9:59 a.m. and then walk away from it. Hope that you're able to do your best and not stress about the rest. Okay, everyone, email me if you have questions.